All I could aspire to, or so I was told, was maybe doing some COBOL work, for an insurance company or something like that. But then again, as one of my mother's friends once told her very supportively, no, he couldn't do that. There are people with degrees that do that kind of work. And of course, I was just a dropout. In fact, at the third year of high school, I had enough, finally, dropped out completely, and I told my mom, just to finish her off, since she wasn't desperate enough, I told her I wanted to move to Austin and start this band. And it turns out that the band actually did really well. Within a year, we had a bunch of demos. We were on local TV. We made a little name for ourselves. We had some offers to actually do some recording and take it pro. And of course, that was the time when I decided that I didn't want to do that at all. I had met a girl. She was an incredible singer, and now she's a famous soprano. And we decided that studying music and going back to the theater was our goal, and that we were way above the whole pop rock thing. So I spent my time again on computers and back to studying composition. Went to serve in the Air Force. When I returned, my goal was again to become a composer for the theater. Same goal, same thing. So all in all of that story is just to say that I studied music for 18 years. I did even professionally at times. I worked with opera singers. I did all kinds of crazy things. So why am I making games? Why am I not making music for games if my games are my passion? And the answer to that can be really difficult. It's not as simple as saying, oh, well, this is why. I can tell you that making software was a decision. It was not something that happened or fell in my lap. When I was 21, I came back. I decided one way or another I would get to write software. First, I started trying to get people to make games in Italy. That didn't work very well. So I had to make an alternative plan. I felt that I was, getting pretty good at it, degree or not. And I decided I would pursue it. However, I could find a way to do it. And I got a job. I got a job writing incredibly stupid accounting software, something like that. It was invoicing. And it was a terrible job, but I didn't look at it that way. It was learning, and it gave me a boost, because there is nothing more important to feeding your passion than seeing yourself in a particular role, like I was saying earlier, seeing yourself in that movie, something changing me. Now I could write the invoicing software. Nobody thought I could. From then on, every new leap, every new jump got bigger and bolder and more daring. Confidence is everything. Confidence changes your ability to tackle impossible problems. You can't lean like that unless you really believe in yourself and your machine and what you're doing. And you have to be able to visualize yourself in that role. The moment I was in that company doing that horrible software, I saw myself, why can't I be, writing better software? And I started doing this project at night with a friend with the goal that I would eventually submit to companies in the US and try to get a job there. Why can't I? The moment I was in the US, why can't I go to work with the finest makers of graphic software in the world? And after that, why can't I go work with the best game development company in the world? I can see myself there. So, what about the music? Once I made that decision, I had to reassess the goals to satisfy my passion. And in this case, making games had to take priority, so everything else had to wait. So the reason why I'm not a composer today, because I was busy. Not because I thought that I wasn't good enough, not because I thought that, maybe I couldn't make as much money. All of that would have been a reason-driven type of decision, and it certainly was not the case with me. I continued to write and play, but always in the background. But as I mentioned before, having all of these passions in your head can be very dangerous. The moment things don't go as well as you think, the other passion want to bubble up and force you into rethinking yourself. As an example, when I was at Blizzard, I started doing some music work as well. And of course, my primary role was I did a lot of core technology and things, but I started hanging out with the guys in the music department. I started writing music. I co-authored some of the soundtrack for Diablo 2. I started getting a boost in confidence on the music side, and that was bad. It got to the point where around 4 years or so at Blizzard, I got really bored, and I was bored of writing software. And I even went to Mike Morheim, the president, and I remember the conversation when I told him that I wanted to be moved to the sound department and that I would take whatever pay cut he deemed necessary. He let me talk the whole time, and then he looked at me and said, no, you're crazy. And that was about it. He was sensible enough to understand I was just going through a crisis and nothing to go crazy about. And the final moment in which I was able to really put music back in its place when we started Radio Dawn. By the end of my 5th year at Blizzard, I had a studio that you wouldn't believe. I was all tooled up to make music. I could write anything. I gave away the whole studio. I decided that once again, making games was the priority, technology for games, and I would focus 100% on just that. Once again, music now is in the background. It goes, what I do is I still write. I write for orchestras when they care to play some of my stuff, but mostly I just write little themes on the piano, the thing I was playing at the beginning, which I'm not going to play again. But that's the general idea. This was for a sci-fi project that we were thinking about. Whenever there is something that I find inspiring, I write some music for it, just to keep it at bay. This is a fantastic quote by Joss Whedon, which actually was said by Buffy in Buffy the Vampire Slayer. And without passion, we'd be truly dead. That's the key point. So one thing I want to just warn you about, the truly dead. There are people in this world, just like there are people that don't have any sensitivity to fiction, there are people who have absolutely no passion whatsoever. And you would think that it would be very easy to recognize. You can pinpoint a person that has no drive and no passion. But it's not true, because they lie to themselves. Nobody wants to admit that they don't care about anything that much to make it a priority in their life. And there are different degrees, of course, of passionlessness. And a lot of these people end up in important positions, and they're going to fight those that have the passion, because deep down they regret, and they're envious of those that are not cynical and they follow their dreams. So since it's not a voluntary thing, you have to be ready to fight back and stick with your convictions. That's the hardest part. And not to be too negative, but Oscar Wilde always said it best. We all desire passion. We all need it. I don't think you're going to ever ask anybody and ask them if they have any dreams or anything they're really passionate about. They'll tell you, no, I'm perfectly happy with everything about myself. But what is it worth? In my opinion, it's everything. There's nothing in your life that is more important. And it's very tempting and very easy to think of passion as one of many qualities. People say, what about hard work and patience and talent and dedication? I don't think of them as additional qualities. I think they are the outcome of passion. It all comes out of it. You cannot be passionate and not work harder than everybody else at your interest and your passion. You cannot be passionate and not want to be the best at it. You are driven to it. Therefore, everything else comes out of it, except maybe talent, but that's something you can't do anything about. And I really do believe that talent is the least of the factors that are involved. It helps if you have it, but you can do very well even without. Like I said, passion implies work, courage, even confidence to the point of arrogance. You have to work yourself to it. It doesn't just happen on its own. That's the key idea of it. If you have a choice, if you cannot do it, then it's not passion that is driving you. You have to ask yourself the hard question: what are the limits of your willingness to follow your passion? How far are you willing to go? What are you willing to sacrifice? Even if you define these goals and you find all these barriers to achieving your dream, being in Italy could be one. You say, I'm in Italy. I don't have as many options to pursue my career, to make games the way I want to make games. That is a definite obstacle. Knowing about it, quantifying that fact into your dream, into your plan, can help you. I'm not saying you can magically solve the problem. I'm not saying there is a guarantee that you will solve the problem, but knowing about it and making part of the realization of what it takes to satisfy your passion can certainly help get there. And if you don't, at least you know. It's perfectly fine, like I do, for example, with bodybuilding or whatever, to put some of the passions in the back burner or redefine the goals of your satisfaction to be internal. You say, I make the games to this point, to this extent, I'm happy with this. At times, there are people for whom passion seems just a given. It seems so easy. You know, you're incredibly talented, you are ready to go for it, you have the people to support you, you have the means, you're in the right place at the right time. So, worst part is that we're at the end, basically. But I was saying that sometimes passion seems really simple, but most of the time it means struggle. And the two really seem to go hand in hand. In fact, if you go back and you look at your life and you analyze the decisions you made so far, you'll be able to pinpoint the places where you have followed your passion, and passion has driven the outcome of your decision, versus the times where reason sometimes comes in the form of, you know, people around you telling you what you should be doing, what the correct course of action should be, what the prudent, the sensible way of approaching a problem should be. When that war is done, you're done. When you're no longer in struggle to resolve the conflict between your passions and your reasoning mind, then what is left? Really, what's left to do? You know, you just wait to die and then you're done. And this is a beautiful quote as well, on the real nature of passion and how it defines us in our lives. And my passions are still fighting, they're still competing with each other. I will be done with games in the day not too far, but I will have music, and will keep me alive, and will continue to make reason something that is not a part of my daily life. It will continue to give me fulfillment and purpose in life. I've learned to dominate reason. I almost never let it win. This is the way we run our company, for example, we make our decisions. You will find that your daily life is a struggle between satisfying your passion, following your passion, and allowing reason to, you know, especially when you have lots of responsibilities and things in your life start taking a toll on your ability to just dive head first. There is absolutely nothing today that I cannot picture myself doing. There's nothing. There's nothing that I say, okay, there's no way I could ever do that. It takes, like I said, a long time, but you can get there. You have to train yourself to be able to see yourself in whatever role you think that your passions could take you to. Even if everything will go wrong. Let's say this year, my company goes to crap. It can happen to everybody. It will not make any difference in my drive or my ability to find something else to do. That is a feeling I love. I love there is nothing that can happen to me on a professional level, certainly, or at least when it relates to my passions, that can bring me down. Nothing. I will continue to do it. Even if I make the worst game ever, the most crappy game ever made, will not stop me from making games. And you should thrive. Your passion should thrive. And with that, I will let Port Minor, who actually said it best, as it always happens, rappers tend to kind of sum up exactly what your heart should feel.
Yeah. For those of you that want to know what we're all about, it's like this, yo. This is 10% luck, 20% skill, 15% concentrated power of will, 5% pleasure, 50% pain, 100% reason to remember the name. Like, he doesn't need his name up in lights, he just wants to be heard, whether it's the beat of the mic.